What's going on, friends? The one thing Harley-Davidson needed to do and that they failed to do, and that was listen to the customer, especially the past 5 years. You can't tell a room full of Harley riders what to like, and this is the new motorcycle. This is what you're going to ride, and you're going to enjoy it. I guarantee you it doesn't work that way, and with Harley-Davidson about the past 5 years, that's been pretty self-evident. Now, I can't speak for every Harley-Davidson rider out there, but most Harley riders, when you buy a Harley-Davidson, you're buying this motorcycle for the look, the feel, and the simplicity. Most riders that buy Harley-Davidson could care less about all the technology, all the nanny aids these new bikes come with. That's not what it's all about. It's about the look, the feel, the name, and the ride, and also just basically the overall simplicity of the motorcycle. If I wanted something with a lot of technology on it that was going to be extremely complicated to work on, I would probably go buy a Honda Goldwing. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but I think I speak for a lot of Harley riders out there. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. There's some big changes coming to Harley-Davidson, and I honestly can't wait for them to happen. About the past 5 years, Harley-Davidson has been pretty much run into the ground. They come out with new models, updated them, did what they wanted, didn't really consult with the customer, made a lot of decisions that didn't jive with Harley-Davidson's customer base, and with predictable results by ignoring your customers and just doing whatever the hell you want, sales were down significantly, up above about 60%. Now, honestly, nothing was going to happen until the sales numbers came out and all the investors and everybody involved that pumps money into Harley-Davidson, when your stock price plummets and everybody out in the crowd in the peanut gallery, especially when they're putting money into it, it's in an uproar, that's when it's time to make a quick exit, and that's exactly what the CEO and some of the board members, probably all of the board should, just go ahead and get out. Now, obviously, when it comes to Harley-Davidson, the entire Livewire project, all the electric motorcycles, everything that the current CEO and the board tried to push, that was an absolute flop and a failure. I believe they are actually lucky if they sell 300 of those electric motorcycles an entire year. That's just not Harley-Davidson, and that's just something they didn't get. They were so out of touch with most of the Harley-Davidson riders out there in the world, it wasn't even funny. And as I mentioned, the sales reflected it. The company was about driven into the ground by producing less motorcycles and charging more for them. Not to mention that they went on a big push to close down a lot of your locally owned dealers. Now, I don't know about you, but I honestly prefer going to the locally owned dealers that are owned by one person. They don't have multiple shops. That's their baby, that's their bread and butter, and those are the kind of folks that I like to deal with. Now, a lot of times today, these are big multi-million-dollar corporations, and they own multiple dealerships, maybe even different brands of all kinds of different power sports. It's not just Harley-Davidson in a mom-and-pop shop anymore when it comes to your dealerships. That was another push from the top about the past 5 years. Now, I get it, Harley-Davidson has to change with the times and try to stay relevant. But the one thing that Harley-Davidson needed to do, and that was just leave the motorcycles alone. They really didn't need a ton of updating, a lot of refreshing. They really didn't need all this modernization work done to all the different motorcycles. Do I appreciate the new Softail chassis? Absolutely. But I do wish they would have kept more of the classic look, because that's where they missed the mark on a lot of the Harley-Davidson models, is that most people buy a Harley-Davidson because of that older classic look and feel. That back from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's just kind of carried over and been slightly tweaked and updated for the times. But about the past 5 years, they've really gone overboard with a lot of the updates and changes, and I was glad to see on some of the 2025 models, they were kind of getting more back to about that twin cam look. Because personal opinion here, Harley-Davidson hasn't really built anything I like and would actually run out and buy after 2016. Because after that, everything just got a little bit too modern for me, and we really got away from the things that made Harley-Davidson great. I get it, Harley-Davidson doesn't always get to do exactly what they might like to do, because I guarantee you, if Harley-Davidson had their way, we would still probably be riding Evolution engines. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just wish they could have squeezed a little more power out of them. But Harley-Davidson's biggest thing for years that always worked for them was just leaving them alone and doing their thing. Just keep building motorcycles and not trying to keep up with the times, not trying to keep up with everybody else out there. And it worked for Harley-Davidson for decades. But about the past decade or so with Harley-Davidson, since probably about 2017, and it got worse in 2020 when the new CEO took over, is they started trying to keep up with everybody else, and they started kind of copying everybody else. Now, I understand that Indian has been a big driver in with what Harley-Davidson is doing, because if it were up to Harley-Davidson, we probably would have had an air and oil-cooled Sportster. It probably would have been a 4-valve baby Milwaukee 8 or something along those lines, kind of like the Evolution Sportster was. But Indian having the liquid-cooled Scout and the Scout 60 and all those models, Harley-Davidson kind of went that route when they brought out the new Sportsters and went with the Revolution Max engine. Now, of course, Harley-Davidson, I'll admit it, the Pan America was an absolute success story. This thing was breaking into a new market with some already well-established heavyweights, and they've done very well there. They've really taken over it. And honestly, the fact that the Pan America is such a great handling motorcycle, they came out with the Pan America ST, which is really the street-going version of the Pan America, and that bike also kind of falls in line with the FTR 1200 from Indian. So I would say Indian is dictating a lot of the directions that Harley goes. But why would you change the formula? I mean, I understand Harley-Davidson needs to have different bikes, has some different strokes for different folks, but leaving the machines alone and just focusing on what your customers are asking for has been, like I mentioned, working for Harley-Davidson for decades. That's why we had decades of the Evo, decades of the twin cam, and then finally regulatory regulations forced Harley-Davidson to go with a 4-valve head to actually meet emissions and stay actually being able to build bikes without getting shut down. So guys, it's a little too early to tell what's going to happen in Harley-Davidson's future, but I'm very hopeful that going forward, Harley-Davidson will actually start listening to the customers. I would love to see a Dyna come back, but that's probably a pretty far stretch. But going forward, I hope they get a new CEO, mostly a new board, and they can get this righted, because Harley-Davidson has got to continue to keep producing motorcycles. They could dry up a used market pretty darn quick out there by not pushing new bikes out there. The dealers are screaming for change. They're backed up. They can't sell bikes. Harley-Davidson's pushing more inventory on them. It has just been an absolute nightmare about this past 5 years under that current CEO. But hopefully by the end of the year, he's going to be gone. And I'm very hopeful that we are going to see a lot of discontinued models come back. Maybe they're going to start listening to the customers and bringing back models that went away that everybody's still kind of clamoring for. Maybe they weren't their best sellers. Maybe they'll actually redesign them and come back out with a little bit more classic look, which actually worked and they sold. Just Harley-Davidson got a little over the top in their updating to where it just didn't really work on their core models when you get into the Softails and the touring bikes. And yeah, kind of the new touring bikes, that's we're on the second model year of that now, and I still like the old ones. I'm not into those new ones, and honestly, I hate to say it, I would almost go buy an Indian over I would a new Harley touring bike, because I don't know about that look. The Indian still has kind of a classic look to it, but the new Harleys, it's a little too futuristic for Harley-Davidson. Maybe should have eased into that one just a little bit better. But anyhow, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. What do you foresee coming out of Harley-Davidson? Do you think they're going to start listening to us as the customer and going back to kind of that more classic look and getting back into the bikes that actually sold? Because I guarantee you, the newer models now with these redesigns, they're not selling as well as their older models, and that should be pretty apparent to them by now. That, hey, if we're not moving them, maybe we need to just scrap this idea and kind of reel it back in a little bit, kind of get back more to our classic look, and maybe we can start moving some bikes again. But let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars. I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.